Please don't judge me. I fell in love with my stepdad. Hello, it's another week, and you're welcome to Life Stories with Busi. I'm sorry that I wasn't here last week. It was due to issues that were beyond my control, but thank God everything is under control now, and I'm here this week. I pray that this week will be an amazing week for everyone. I pray that God will help us in everything that we do and we lay our hands on, and that Lord will bless the work of our hands. Keep marching on with with the end in mind, knowing that God has got you and God has got your back, right? Okay. So ideally, I should be telling the story I wanted to tell last week this week, right? But something happened. So this particular story that I want to tell, I have had it for a while, but I didn't want to read it because it felt like very odd. Like I'm like, this is odd. This is not a usual thing. Until I got a similar story to it, something similar, and it has to do with ladies and their stepfathers. And I'm like, are ladies doing that now? Are you getting married or getting involved with your stepfathers? Because I couldn't understand it, I could not comprehend it. But how people would say in their stories, please don't judge me. I'm not judging, but I just feel like there are some things or some relationships that should not be encouraged, kind of. And I don't know how you feel about it, but let me go into this story so that you'll understand what I'm trying to get at. I will say what I feel, and then you guys will tell me what you think about this. Good day, Busi. My name is MJ, and I need your help. Or rather, general thoughts from people, that is, you people. Okay, so she goes, I fear love might elude me because of what others might say. I found love in the most unexpected place, but it's beautiful and I don't want to lose it. Please don't judge me. I fell in love with my stepdad. Let me explain. My mother passed away 4 years ago. No, I didn't have any feelings for him when she was alive. Please just hear me out. And because I always say that this place is a safe place, I would listen to anybody and everybody. There's some stories I don't bring here because sometimes I'm just like, but there are some stories that I'm like, okay, let's just tell. And it's because, like I said, the reason why I'm telling this story now is because another person sent in a story that seemed similar, and I'm thinking like, okay, maybe we should just address this issue once and for all. Yeah, okay, so that's why I'm addressing this story. So she says, please just hear me out. So let's hear what she has to say. So let's go. My mother had me when she was 19 and she was in the university. My father wasn't interested in marriage, so my grandparents raised me and they did a great job. My mother would check in occasionally, but she felt more like an auntie to me, while my grandmother was my real mother figure. She adored me, I was the apple of her eyes. She had only sons, and since I looked exactly like her, she embraced me wholeheartedly when my father confirmed that I was his child. When I was 12, my father got married and had other children, but I continued living with my grandparents. At some point, my mother relocated, got married, and was gone for like 15 years. We spoke on the phone occasionally, and she would send things, but since she was never really present, I learned to live without her. In 2016, she returned to Nigeria, now divorced with 2 children who remained with their father. She invited me over and I visited. I didn't have much of a relationship with her side of the family. So that visit was my first real interaction with my aunties and uncles. In 2018, my mother moved in with her partner, Dan, though they never legally married. She was 43 and had no interest in walking down the aisle again. She said she and Dan had a unique arrangement that worked for them. She invited me for a celebratory dinner where I met Dan properly, along with his son, his brother, and my mother's siblings. It was a lovely gathering. From time to time, I checked in on them, and Dan was always kind, though we never really had deep conversations. Then COVID-19 happened. At that time, my grandmother traveled to Australia to help one of my uncles with a newborn. My grandfather followed her. Since I didn't get along with my father's wife, I decided to stay at my mother's house, which led to me being locked down with them. We had a great time as a family. My stepbrother was around and we bonded. My mother even had a mild case of COVID and we nursed her back to health. In 2021, she called to tell me she had been diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. It was devastating. Around the same time, I discovered that I was pregnant by a man who had promised me everything. He was relocating and he insisted that we have a quiet introduction ceremony before he left, assuring me that he would send for me. I had my baby in 2021, and instead of marrying me, he sent his parents to my grandparents to inform them that he was no longer interested. I was left alone, pregnant and struggling, all the while trying to care for my ailing mother. I visited often, kept her house clean, cooked and took care of her as her condition worsened. Dan was there by her side and never left her side. She passed away in December 2021. I named my baby girl after her. Dan was devastated when she passed, and I was too. After my mother's death, my father's scorn became unbearable. He would visit my grandparents' house just to ridicule me, to remind me that I had failed, that I had become just like my mother. Despite knowing the circumstances surrounding my pregnancy, my grandmother defended me, saying that she was still capable of taking care of me, but I felt ashamed and foolish. How did I allow a man to convince me to have a child only for him to abandon me? I had a job and I could care for my daughter. I desperately wanted to leave my grandparents' house, though it felt like abandoning them in their old age. Now, this was how we started with Dan. I often checked in on Dan and my stepbrother. During one of our conversations, my stepbrother told me that if I ever needed space, I was welcome to stay with them. He asked Dan and he agreed. One weekend, I went over for a break. Dan was feeling unwell, and since my stepbrother had to travel for a course, I decided to stay and take care of him. I nursed him back to health and he thanked me. We had a long conversation before I left, and afterward, I started checking up on him more often. One weekend, I visited again, and this time we talked more deeply. He opened up about his past marriages before my mother, and I shared my own struggles. He understood me in a way no one else did. He adored my baby girl and played with her constantly. I found myself wanting to see him more. He became the person I called for advice, and our conversations lasted forever. I helped around the house, cooking, cleaning, and keeping him company. We would watch movies and talk. He told me that I had a great sense of humor and carried myself with maturity, something that I credited to growing up with my grandparents. Then one day, in the middle of one of our deep conversations, we kissed. Immediately, he told me that I should leave. I refused because at some point I had fallen for him. That day, he insisted that I should stop coming over to his house. We tried to stay away from each other, but we couldn't. Our bond grew into something undeniable. For Dan, it was never about what society thought. It was about how he felt. He just wanted to love and care for me and my child. He's 52 and I'm 30. His son has no issues with our relationship, but my grandparents are outraged. They believe that it's a taboo to be with a man who was once with my mother. My father called me a disgrace and said that he regrets ever acknowledging me as his daughter. Where do I go from here? Dan loves me. He wants to marry me. He treats my daughter as his own, spoiling us both. I don't believe I'm doing anything wrong. Our relationship didn't begin when my mother was alive, not immediately after her passing. My family insists that it's unacceptable. They say that if we were a son, they might consider it, but him, never. Yet, he was never legally married to my mother. He wants to build a life with me. Am I truly wrong for loving him? Love can emerge in unexpected places. You don't tell your heart who to love, and your heart falls for the wrongest person sometimes. But you need to question this love. And you need to do a lot of work questioning this love. There are just so many things that you need to ask yourself. First, um, there's this age gap. Now, the age gap is not a big deal because, of course, we know that people marry people that are younger than them. This age gap, would bring in the consideration of things like your life stages. What future do you really envision for this your relationship? And then we're talking about life stages. We're talking about long-term goals. What are the long-term goals for this relationship? It's also worth exploring whether this your relationship is influenced by your unresolved daddy issues. Yeah, you have daddy issues, and it's not just your daddy issues now, it's also abandonment issues. So because in your life you faced a lot of rejections, you faced key people in your life being absent, and you faced a lot of criticism. So this is you with your unresolved daddy issues. You have a biological father that you cannot really call a father. You had a mother who was never there. Now you've been abandoned by a man that you loved, or a man that you thought was in love with you, and that man has also now abandoned you with a child. It's possible that you might have subconsciously gravitated towards an older man who provides you with, validation, a sense of protection, and the stability that you needed, or the stability that you lacked when you were growing up. And so it's possible that you have substituted Dan for your father, and you think that it is love because it validates you. You didn't get that from your biological father. So all these things are things that you need to check out because before you say to yourself that you love this man. So you might have to reflect whether your attachment to Dan is fulfilling an emotional void in you. You need to check that out. Another thing is that I think that you're low hanging fruit for Dan, because already you cook, you come to his house regularly, you come to cook, you come to clean and all that. When his son was not around, you were available to do all those things. And so this man doesn't even have to do anything extra. He doesn't have to do anything extra to get you. You're low hanging fruit. You're so easy to get, because all he needed to do, or all he needs to do, is to just show you concern and show you that he cares, and then you're already falling in love. I kind of feel like you're low hanging fruit, and because you're vulnerable at this point, for God's sake, you've been through a lot. You don't have the love of a father. The mother that you just recently reconnected with has died, and then in between that, you get involved with a man who abandoned you, and then you have a child, and the both of you are abandoned, and your father is not finding it easy, and then you feel that in all of this, maybe you feel that you're not worth something better, and you feel that this is the man that you would settle for. I don't know, I don't understand, but basically I feel that you're a low hanging fruit for this man. I don't know, but I don't think that's wise for a woman. You're a low hanging fruit. I think you were very easy to catch, very, very easy. This man didn't have to do anything. He didn't even have to go the extra mile. He didn't have to fight for anything, and just like that, you think that you're in love with him. And then you mentioned marriages. So it means that this man has been through a couple of marriages. Whatever arrangement that he had with your mother, and maybe your mother knew that, oh, he's gone through, of course she's gone through a divorce, and this man has gone through several. She thought it in her own wisdom at that time not to marry the man. I don't know what she saw. We probably don't know what she saw, but she decided that she wasn't going to marry this man, but they were partners. They were living together as partners. You get? And this man mentioned marriage. You know that he's been into plenty marriages. I mean, maybe 2, maybe 3 marriages. And so the arrangement that he had with your mom was nice. It was good for him. It was easy. It wasn't anything that they had to commit any real thing. They didn't have to really commit themselves. It was just like a partnership that was working for the both of them, right? And here you are, you have come again to take over from them. Now you are saying that he wants to marry you, but have you also considered that this man might just be using you? I'm sure you will think, no, he's not using me. Because it's so easy. This man has everything that he needs without really stressing. And because his son, who is probably his companion, is not around, then you are here. You take over from where your mom stopped. I mean, that's what it looks like, because you can do everything. You can clean, you can cook, you can take care of the house, and hey, since you're also available, for the other little things, it's just easy for him. So have you thought about him also using you? Because you have talked about this man, I have talked about many marriages. I don't know what happened in his marriages, but you need to also be careful. You need to ask questions, and you need to check these things out. But another thing is that you said something about being desperate at a point, desperate to leave your grandparents' house and all. Is it because of desperation? I mean, have you taught yourself that maybe your desperation is what is leading you into this relationship? Because I don't think that this man is the only man on earth. Is it that you feel like because you have a child that you cannot attract a single man or attract some man your age? Is it because you feel like you cannot attract a man in your age bracket? That's why you're desperate to settle for this man. Because have you considered other people? Like, if you have men that are your age mate around, men that are like maybe in their 30s, if you had a lot of men around, would you choose this man? Would you choose this your so-called stepfather over those men? Because you are desperate. So the desperation now is not just to get married, but remember that after the wedding there's a marriage, and you are going to leave that marriage. You're going to be there. So if it does not work, you will go back to square one. So have you thought to yourself that, look, if there are other men, if there are other men that are available for you to choose from, and this man is one of those men, would you choose this man out of all the available men that are your age mates? Have you thought about that? So because this could be desperation speaking. So I need you to think about all these things and then ask yourself good questions, because it's not just for you to get married. It's also for you to stay in that marriage. You get it? A man who has had some marriages, who was in partnership with your mother and now wants to marry you. What makes you special that you think that he cannot decide that he wants to end the marriage with you too? What makes you special? What do you think makes you special that you think in some 10 years down the line, or in 20 years down the line, you wouldn't say that he wants out? Have you thought about it? What makes you special to him? To wrap this up, in all that you do, time always helps you to make proper choices. I think that you don't need to rush. You shouldn't be in a hurry to get married to this man. Give it time. Sit down, ask yourself questions, get to know him better. Know him better. A man that has been through some marriages, you don't know what has happened in those marriages. Get to know him better. His son accepting your relationship is probably because the son is not around, and the son also needs somebody to take care of his father, and so you are there, and it's just perfect. Do you get? So I think that you should just give this time, relax first, pull yourself back, and ask yourself all these questions that I've asked you. Have you thought about the fact that it might be because of your daddy issues? Have you thought about the fact that it might be because that man wants to use you? Is it because you are desperate? Is it because you are low hanging fruit and you are easily accessible? It doesn't really need to do anything to get you. You are so easy to get. Is it because you feel worthless, or you feel that other men will not marry you, and you don't want to end up like your mother, and you don't want your daughter to end up like you? Is that the reason why you're doing this? You need to ask yourself all this question. You need to ask yourself the question, am I doing this because I don't want to end up like my mother and I don't want my child to end up like me? You need to ask yourself the questions. And when you ask yourself all these questions and you can answer them truthfully, and you feel that, oh, truthfully, I've answered this question, and you feel that you are still in love with this man and you want to go ahead. But if you ask me, I'll tell you, calm down. There are men outside there. Do not just rush into this relationship with this older man, and then in another like 5 years you see a man that is your age that really likes you, and you realize that you are married to an old man and you want out, and then you begin to have issues in relationship. And for a man who has also been in many marriages, you don't know what his issues are. So I need you to step back and take a good look at this relationship. I don't think that you found the love of your life, or you found the most beautiful relationship that you think that you can ever have in your life. That is what I think. Guys, what do you think? What do you think MJ should do? I think I should step back and give this relationship time. Time will always tell. Okay? Guys, what do you think? I will be in the comment section. MJ will be there. So next time when I come your way, my name remains Busala David. Bye.